Okay, quick look at the hardware that I'm using. This is my test rig for testing the software. It's a pretty basic setup, as you can see. Essentially, it's a lithium polymer battery connected via a switch to a 270 size motor. Pretty crude, pretty basic, but allows me to test various modifications to the software that I make. This is the flywheel that I'm using. It's 3 CDs epoxied together. Pretty crudely, some electrical tape on the outside. These will shatter if they exceed 20,000 RPM, maybe a bit less, but this system runs to about 5,000–6,000 RPM, so it's not a big deal. You can see that I have inserted a magnet through the 3 CDs. That's epoxied in place, and that's what we're going to use to generate the pulse as the dyno spins. This is quite small, but a reasonably powerful magnet. It's not a rare earth magnet, but it does the job pretty well. And actually, if you're going to use a headphone / coil based setup with a magnet, this is the most important component. You can use a crappy set of headphones with a good magnet, and it'll work out just fine. So yep, that's my basic setup. Plug this on here. This will offer some load to the motor. There you go. That's the basic hardware. I'm going to show you how to put together the simplest sensor for your dyno, and that basically is a set of stereo headphones, and as we noted earlier, there's a magnet built into the flywheel. The idea is that as a magnet moves past one of the headphones, it'll create a small electrical pulse, and we'll direct that pulse through the microphone line of the computer, and the software will then analyze the pulses as they come through to determine what the RPM of the flywheel is. As you can see, this is a pretty cheap pair of stereo headphones. These are airline headphones, I believe, because of the double jack. One's a mono, one's a stereo. So we're going to use this stereo jack. SimpleDyno is capable of recording 2 separate audio channels, a left and right channel, and calculating 2 different RPM values from that, RPM 1 and RPM 2. RPM 1 is the most important of the 2. It's the value or data stream that SimpleDyno uses to calculate torque and power output. So we need to identify which one of these headphones is connected to the RPM 1 channel and the RPM 2 channel. Typically the left, whatever headphone is marked left, is connected to the RPM 1 channel, and the right headphone is connected to the RPM 2 channel. That being said, these being a cheap pair of headphones, they're not marked left and right, so we need to find out which one is which. So I'm going to just video the laptop screen. This laptop can't run the video screen capture software and SimpleDyno at the same time, so if you can bear with me. So I'll start up the software, and I'm going to plug my stereo headphones into the mic in line on my laptop. So there they are, plugged in, and I'm going to set the data recording to audio only, as you can see here. 2 channels, because we want to see left and right channels, and the lowest sample rate available, which is 11,025 Hertz. Click start, and you will see this signal is starting to be recorded in the very small signal panel on the right hand side of the screen. Now if you put your mouse over that panel, it'll expand so you can get a better view of the signal. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to simply tap on the headphones to determine which one is which. So I'm going to flick the headphone, and there you can see the red trace responding, And the red trace is in fact connected to the RPM1 data stream. So this is the headphone that we need to use for RPM1 detection. If I flick the other headphone, you'll see the yellow trace responding, and that's the RPM2 channel. We won't be using that today. So I know which headphone is connected to RPM1. Sometimes if you see both traces responding identically regardless of which headphone that you tap, it means that you've got a mono recording jack on your laptop, and you'll only be able to record one channel of data. So the idea here is that when the flywheel is running, you place the headphone close to the magnet. As the magnet passes, it will cause a small electrical signal, and that's picked up by SimpleDyno and calculated based on timing between pulses. It's converted into RPM. So I have a pretty crude frame setup here that I'm going to put this headphone in. As you can see, this headphone's got quite a lot of useless hardware on this side. The coil and the magnet inside the headphone is actually at the back. The closer the coil is to the magnet, the better the signal. So I'm actually going to put this headphone in with the back facing down, close to the flywheel. So I'll just slide it in here and get it as close to the flywheel as possible, and just try to make sure that it's under the path of the magnet, which it is, roughly. It's close enough. Okay, that took a little bit of fiddling around with, but as you can see, I have mounted the headphone that we identified as being connected to the RPM1 channel over the Dyno flywheel. So you can see that it's sitting pretty close. I have it sitting with the rear of the headphone down because that's closest to the coil. And then if I run the Dyno, the magnet will move under the headphone. So if we go back and look at where we were with the software, so as we remember from earlier, we were running 2-channel audio, and to identify which of the stereo headphones was connected to the RPM1 channel. For the purposes of the rest of the video, I'm going to go back to 1 channel at the lowest frequency or sampling rate again. Just hit start and it will convert to just a single red trace. The green line here is your signal threshold line, so I'm just going to move this out of the way for right now, but click anywhere on the screen, it'll move to that position. The signal threshold line is essentially the point at which the signal from the mic line has to exceed before it counts it as a real pulse. So the pulse will come in, it'll rise, and when it crosses the signal threshold line, that's when SimpleDyno starts to time that particular peak, and then it'll drop down again. The next peak will come in and it'll do the same thing, and once the following peak crosses the signal threshold line, SimpleDyno looks at the time between the 2 pulses, and from there calculates the RPM. So for right now, we're going to leave the signal threshold pretty much out of the way. It's typically set close to the middle of the signal window, so you want to put it somewhere close to the red line. That way you get best sensitivity for low RPM. Alright, so let's run the Dyno up to speed. I'll just get it running and see what a pulse looks like. can see that I got a pretty clear pulse. Each time the magnet passes the headphone, I'm getting a pulse. A couple of things to notice is that as the RPM increase, that signal gets tighter and normally gets a little bit larger in intensity, and then as the dyno slows down, you can see that peak and trough will get smaller. That's why we set the signal threshold close to the midline, so we can pick up those low RPM. The other thing you might have noticed was that there's some noise in this signal. If you look closely between the pulses, you'll see slight variations. It's not a very clean signal. And that's because these headphones essentially are acting like little microphones. So not only is the headphone picking up the magnet passing by the coil, but it's also picking up any noise that's that it senses ambient noise, such as the noise of the motor or the noise of my voice. So you can pretty easily solve that by just wrapping the headphone in tape or filling it with epoxy or something. Anything to deafen the headphone will make your signal better, but actually right now I don't need to do that. The signal is quite good and seems to be working well. Now when I look at the signal a little bit more closely, most of that noise is in the upward direction. The trough, that's the lower part of this peak, or lower part of this pulse, is pretty clean. So I'm going to put the signal threshold on the lower side, move it a little bit closer to the midline, and this means that every time a trough goes through the signal threshold, it'll start timing the pulses. So that looks pretty good. I'm not getting any spikes or noise in that signal. And if we look back, take a look at the broader screen, you can see that I'm getting pretty nice RPM data. There we go. So this is working pretty well. If you set the threshold into where the noise part of the signal is, for example, if I set it to here, that noise will potentially cause spikes in the data. Let me set it a little bit closer so you can see what noise in the data looks like. So here the threshold is set very close to where that noise is, and you can see the data getting spiky. So set your threshold line close to the middle, but not in a region where there's noise in your signal. And as I said, if you wrap that headphone in tape to deafen its ability to pick up audio, that signal will clean up. Alright, just reset the mags. So that's your very basic sensor setup. Set of headphones, magnet in your flywheel, and you're done.